Welcome everyone to our discussion on Criminal Law Book 2, Title 1. So, ang first na ating pag-uusapan ay tungkol sa crimes against national security and the law of nations. So, this video will focus on Articles 114 to 123 under Title 1 of the Revised Penal Code, which provisions protect the state from acts endangering national security and international relations. So there are three main categories with respect to this topic. We have crimes against national security, crimes against the law of nations, and other related offenses. So Article 114 is our first offense under this particular title. So how is treason committed? It is committed by Filipino citizens or resident aliens. And take note, there is a war in which the Philippines is involved. So merong gera na kasali ang Pilipinas. And then the acts of treason are dalawa. One is levying war against the government, and the other one is adhering to the enemies, giving them aid or comfort. So, ano ibig sabihin ng levying war against the government? So, example nito is if the Filipino citizen or a resident alien, nagpa-enlist sila ng mga tao, ng mga men, in order to conduct military activities against the against the Philippine government. So, nagpa-training sila. So, gumawa sila ng movement against the national or the Philippine government. Then that constitutes levying war against the government. Yung adhering to the enemies, giving them aid or comfort naman is that nakikisimpatya yung offender sa enemy country, no? So, particularly sa mga citizens of the enemies, yung mga involved sa war, by giving them aid or comfort. So, sabi pa, kailangan hindi lang adherence, dapat nagbigay ng aid tsaka comfort yung offender para maging liable siya for treason. Kasi kapag nakikisimpatya ka lang pero hindi ka naman nagbigay ng aid or comfort, then hindi kompleto yung elements and therefore walang treason na pag-uusapan. So kailangan etong dalawa talaga present, adhering to the enemies and at the same time giving them aid or comfort. So example nito is let's say for example, may isang case during the Japanese occupation na yung Pinoy is tinulungan niya yung mga Japanese officers na i-identify kung sino yung mga member ng guerrilla or sino yung mga guerrilla gumagawa ng mga guerrilla activities, So, because of his participation, the Japanese officers were able to identify them and to eliminate these people and to destroy armed movement by these guerrilla. So, through that, there was adherence to the enemies and giving them aid by giving them aid or comfort. And eventually, that Filipino citizen was convicted of treason because of his act of adhering by giving the enemies aid or comfort. So take note here that in order to convict someone of treason, we must follow the two-witness principle, which states that no person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses at least to the same overt act. So, kulang kung isa lang yung witness natin na mag-testify. So, kailangan dalawa talaga yung witnesses for treason. So, the term giving of aid and comfort means that an act which strengthens or tends to strengthen the enemies of the king in the conduct of war against the king. That is, in law, giving of aid and comfort. It is not essential that the effort to aid be successful, provided overt acts are done which, if successful, would advance the interest of the enemy. So, ang ibig lang sabihin talaga ng giving of aid and comfort, ito yung parang aid and comfort na binigay mo sa enemies ng government. So, yan lang ibig sabihin niya, no? Whether or not yung aid na yan will result into a successful operation of the enemies or not. So, hindi necessary na successful yung kalaban due to that aid or comfort. For as long as you committed aid or comfort, you gave aid or comfort to the enemies, no? You adhere to the enemies, giving them aid or comfort. So, yan na, committed na yung crime of treason. To be treasonous, the extent of the aid and comfort given to the enemies must be to render assistance to them as enemies and not merely as individuals, and in addition, be directly in furtherance of the enemy's hostile design. So, eto siya. So, the law made distinctions, no, between individual, parang giving aid for to an enemy as an individual versus giving aid to an enemy in waging war against the government. So kung ang purpose daw ng aid mo is in order to aid him as an individual, not as an officer or as someone who is involved in the war, then pwede daw siya ma-qualify na hindi siya parang ma-comply yung element na giving of aid and comfort in order to convict someone of treason. So, dapat daw yung aid and comfort na binigay mo must be directly in furtherance of the enemy's hostile designs. Example is, if you give him money to buy ammunition or arms in order to use in waging war against the Philippine government. So that's an example now of giving aid or comfort that is directly in furtherance of the enemy's hostile design. So, treason is a breach of allegiance, no, to the Philippine government. So, parang in short, nag-traidor ka sa sarili mong bayan. So, that is treason. So, when you say allegiance, it is the obligation of fidelity and obedience of a citizen or subject to his government or sovereign. So, kung balikan natin yung elements ng treason, 'di ba? There is it can be committed by a resident alien. So, question nyo is bakit meron bang allegiance yung mga resident aliens sa Philippine government? The answer is yes. Hindi lang Filipino citizens are bound to or has obligation of allegiance to the Philippine government, but also those aliens or foreigners that are residing in the Philippines. So, bakit po? Kasi they are receiving the benefits, no, of the services and protection of the Philippine government. So, rightly so, kailangan talaga na meron din silang allegiance to the Philippine government. So, meron silang fidelity and obedience, no, as subjects, no, to the Philippine government. So once they commit treason by either levying war against the Philippine government, or adherence to the enemies by giving them aid or comfort, then they will be considered in breach of that allegiance. So yan ang ibig sabihin ng allegiance. So this is the problem, no, na mention ko earlier, no, regarding the Pinoy, no, na nagbigay siya ng information or tinulungan niya yung mga Japanese officers to identify those individual that are guerrilla or connected with guerrilla activities. So, yun siya. Those who were designated to have connections with the guerrillas, they were loaded in trucks, no, and sent to Fort Santiago. And then after that, hindi na nila malaman kung buhay pa ba sila or saan na yung mga persons identified as guerrillas. So, ito yung problem na yon. So in this case, meron actually mga nasa 14 witnesses ang nag-testify against the Filipino citizen na nag-aid sa mga Japanese officers. So by their testimonies, the prosecution has thus overwhelmingly established the charge made by the prosecution that this defendant, by actively cooperating with and executing the unlawful designs of his Japanese masters, not only adhered to the enemy but with positive acts gave the Japanese aid in comfort in carrying out their plans of destroying the underground resistance movement and thus consolidate their occupation of the country. So the Filipino citizen here, the accused here, was charged of treason. So kinasuhan siya ng treason because of his act of adhering to the Japanese enemies by cooperating and helping them identify guerrilla persons. And of course, because of that identification, those identified were either killed or hindi na malaman kung nasaan na sila. So eventually, so the question here is, am guilty of treason? So eventually, he was convicted of treason here. So the answer is yes, no? Because the active participation of the accused here in the zoning in question and the subsequent arrest of H and his disappearance and possible death by killing undoubtedly constitutes adherence and giving aid and comfort to the enemy, which constitutes the element of treason under Article 114 of the Revised Penal Code. It cannot be denied that the two counts under which M has been convicted have been sufficiently proven and that the two-witness requirement of the law has been more than sufficiently complied with by the prosecution. So, bago ko makalimutan, there is this two-witness rule pala in filing cases for treason. No? You cannot convict someone of treason without complying with the two-witness rule. It means that no person shall be convicted of treason unless there are two witnesses, no, who will testify on the same overt act. So yun ang requirement ng batas. And as I mentioned earlier, 14 yung witnesses ng prosecution. Kaya complied talaga yung tinatawag na two-witness rule. So we now go to Article 115, which is conspiracy and proposal to commit treason. So if you can still recall your book 1, sabi doon na mere conspiracy and proposal to commit an offense is not punishable under the law unless there is a specific provision under the law that states that conspiracy and proposal to commit an offense is punishable. So an example of that is under Article 115 of the Revised Penal Code. Here, mere agreement or suggestion to commit treason is punishable. So kahit hindi mo pa na-commit yung treason, for as long as merong conspiracy and merong proposal, liable ka na under this particular article. So penalty for conspiracy to commit treason is prison mayor and a fine not exceeding 2 million pesos. And penalty for proposal to commit treason is prison correctional and a fine not exceeding 1 million pesos. But take note here that the two-witness rule is not applicable. So hindi kailangan dalawa yung witness in order to convict someone under Article 115. So Article 116 is misprision of treason. So ano naman ito? So the following are the elements. Number 1, every person owing allegiance to the government of the Philippines without being a foreigner. So ibig sabihin, this applies to Filipino citizens. Second, having knowledge of any conspiracy against them. Third, he conceals or does not disclose and make known the same as soon as possible to the governor or fiscal of the province or to the mayor or fiscal of the city in which he resides. So these are the three elements for misprision of treason. So here, wala pang treason na nakocommit kasi misprision lang siya, meaning meron siyang knowledge na merong conspiracy to commit treason pero hindi niya ni-report. So yan lang yung kanyang liability. The mere concealment and non-disclosure of his knowledge of any conspiracy to commit treason makes someone or makes a Filipino citizen liable under Article 116. So, remember, in this article, hindi pa nako-commit yung treason. So, what if yung knowledge niya is on the commission of treason? Meaning, alam niya na may nag-commit ng treason, pero hindi niya dinisclose. Question, liable ba siya under Article 116, misprision of treason? The answer is no, because treason was already committed. So again, ang knowledge niya dito is of any conspiracy to commit treason, and he concealed or he did not disclose such knowledge to the governor or fiscal of the province or to the mayor or fiscal of the city, as the case may be. This applies to any person with knowledge except kung spouses, ascendants, descendants. Kung ang nakuhanan niya ng information is among these people like spouses, ascendants, descendants, then he will not be held liable for misprision of treason. So now we go to Article 117, which is espionage. So para maintindihan natin yung term na espionage, para itong crime of spying. Parang spy ka dito. So this is defined as the offense of gathering, transmitting, or losing information respecting national defense. Take note, with intent or reason to believe that the information is to be used to the injury of the Republic of the Philippines or to the advantage of any foreign nation. So spying, no? Nag-gather ka, transmit ka ng information or nawala yung information, and the information is about national defense. So there are two ways of committing espionage. One is you enter warship, fort, or naval or military establishment or reservation. Take note, without authority to enter, okay? To obtain any confidential information such as plans, photographs, and other data relating to national defense. So, example, bigla ka nalang pumasok ng military establishment and then kinuhanan mo ng mga pictures yung mga bagay-bagay doon na you think, no, that is vital information regarding national defense. And you have the intention really to get this information para ibigay sa foreign country, no, or para gamitin against the national government or the Philippine government. So that is espionage, okay? Pero kung sakali pumasok ka lang ng military establishment pero wala ka namang intention to use any obtained information para maging gamitin against the Philippine government or para ibigay sa foreign nation, so parang nagkuha ka na ng pictures kasi para remembrance. So sabi ng batas, there is no espionage, no? Hindi mo na-commit yung espionage kasi there is absence of intent or reason to believe, no? Wala kang intention to use that information against the national government. Now, the second way of committing espionage is by disclosing any confidential articles, data, or information relating to national defense to a representative of a foreign nation. And take note, if the offender is a public officer in possession of such information. So example, isa kang general, no, ng Philippine Army. Tapos ngayon, you are in possession as general. So meron kang specific power to hold information, no, that are relating to national defense, pero dinivulge mo, dinisclose mo yan to a foreign country. So that is considered spying or espionage under Article 117. Okay? So Article 118 is inciting to war or giving motives for reprisals. So how is this committed? Number one, committed by any public officer or employee or any private individual. Second, by unlawful or unauthorized acts. Third, provokes or gives occasion for a war involving or liable to involve the Philippine Islands or exposes Filipino citizens to reprisals on their persons or property. So one classic example is sinunog ng Pinoy yung flag ng, let's say, China. So nagalit yung Chinese government, no? So because of that act, so nagalit sila sa Philippine government, no? Or nagalit sila sa mga Pinoy and then they wanted to get revenge against all Pinoys, no? Parang merong generalization, no, sa lahat ng Pinoy because of that unlawful act na ginawa ng isang Pinoy by burning, no, the flag of the Chinese government. So that can be an example of inciting war or giving motives for reprisals. Parang ano ba, nanghagit ka ba? Nanghagit ka of war. But take note here that the act must be done in times of peace. So parang walang war talaga. So during peacetime, doon mo kinumit yung inciting to war or giving motives for reprisals, no? For the person to be convicted of such, okay? So we have Article 119, violation of neutrality. So what are the elements for this offense? Number one, it is committed by anyone. Second, on the occasion of war in which the Philippine government is not involved. So merong war pero hindi involved yung Pilipinas. Example nito is the war between Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Iran, di ba? Meron tayong current na wars na nangyayari, no, sa buong mundo. Pero hindi naman involved yung Philippines. Third element is violates any regulation issued by competent authority for the purpose of enforcing neutrality. So, meaning lang nito, kunyari yung Philippine government nag-announce siya or nagpalabas siya ng regulation na we should be neutral. So, wala tayong kakampihan na country between Russia and Ukraine, hindi natin sila kakampihan. Between Israel and Iran, wala tayong kakampihan. So, merong standing order yung national government natin na neutral lang tayo. And then here comes a Pinoy or a foreigner living in the Philippines, nag-take siya ng side. So, nag-side siya sa Ukraine, for example, or nag-side siya sa Iran, for example. So, that is a violation of neutrality. But take note, pag wala namang regulation na in-issue yung government, wala siyang standing order regarding neutrality, tapos merong war between nations, foreign nations, and nag-take ka ng side, question, meron bang violation under Article 119? The answer is no, because there is absence of the third element. Walang regulation na in-issue yung competent authority enforcing neutrality. Therefore, pwede kang mag-take ng side. Okay? So, that is Article 119. So, Article 120 is correspondence with hostile country. So, kung yung Article 119 is hindi involved ang Pilipinas sa war, dito involved ang Pilipinas sa war. Kasi nga, parang pinagbabawal yung communication with the enemy country. Yan yung Article 120. So, ano yung mga circumstances dito? So, this is committed by any person who, in time of war, shall have correspondence with an enemy country or territory occupied by enemy troops if the correspondence has been prohibited by the government. So, take note ha, itong apat na circumstances, any lang, kahit ano lang dito ang makomit, liable ka na under Article 120. So, first na instance is kapag nagpalabas ng order yung government na bawal mag-communicate sa enemy country tapos nag-communicate ka, then you will be held criminally liable under Article 120. Regardless of the nature of the communication, kung friendly communication lang or nangumusta ka lang sa kakilala mo dun, dahil binawal siya ng government, so by the mere fact or by the mere act of communication or correspondence, violation na agad siya. Second is, kunyari, walang prohibition from the government, pero yung correspondence mo is carried on in ciphers or conventional signs. Ibig sabihin lang, in codes, meaning yung sinulat mo doon is hindi natin usual na ginagamit as a communication. Kayo lang ang nakaintindi. So, para maiwasan yung mga disclosure ng mga confidential information regarding national defense, so magiging liable ka under Article 120. So, kahit na hindi friendly lang yung pag-uusap nyo dyan, gamit yung codes, pero dahil gumamit kayo ng ciphers or conventional signs in your correspondence, even if there is no prohibition by the government, then you are still liable under Article 120. Third is if notice or information be given thereby which might be useful to the enemy, lalong-lalo na ito. So, hindi kailangan ng prohibition, hindi kailangan ng code, for as long as the information is vital para magamit ng enemy against the Philippine government, then that is prohibited under Article 120. And fourth is if the offender intended to aid the enemy by giving such notice or information. So with more reason, no, with item number 4. So these are the circumstances under which pwede kang malliable under Article 120. So ito naman, Article 121 is flight to enemy's country. So this is committed by any person who, owing allegiance to the government, attempts to flee or go to an enemy country when prohibited by competent authority. So tatlo yung elements dito. Committed by any person, owing allegiance to the government. Second, nag-attempt siya to flee or go to an enemy country. And third, it is prohibited by the competent authority. Now question, paano kung wala namang prohibition to flee or to go to an enemy country? Eh di wala kang liability. So walang commission of the crime. This is committed only when there is a prohibition by the Philippine government for you to flee or to go to an enemy country. So, ngayon merong question, paano kung nag-attempt ka lang or bumili ka lang ng plane ticket, no? Para pumunta ka sa enemy country, pero hindi ka pa nagsakay ng eroplano. Question, tapos binawal ng Philippine government na mag-flee. So question yan is, are you now liable under Article 121? The answer is yes, of course, because the mere attempt to flee is already liable under this particular article. So now let's go to the next offense, which is piracy and mutiny on the high seas and or in Philippine waters no, under Article 122. So, dalawa yung offenses dito. We have piracy and mutiny. So, when is piracy committed? This is committed by any person who, on the high seas or in Philippine waters, shall attack or seize a vessel or not being a member of its complement nor a passenger, shall seize the whole or part of the cargo of said vessel, its equipment, or personal belongings of its complement or passenger. So, sa madaling salata, when you say piracy, ito ay ang pagnanakaw sa high seas or in Philippine waters, no? Either you attack or seize a vessel or you take the cargo or equipment or personal belongings of the complement or passengers of that particular vessel. Take note here na ang offender dito is dapat hindi siya member ng complement, hindi din siya passenger. So, stranger siya doon sa ship or sa vessel na kanyang inattack. So, that is piracy. Mutiny naman, this is a rebellion aboard a vessel committed by a member of a vessel's complement or a passenger thereof who unlawfully resists a superior officer or commits uprising or insubordination against the authority of the commanders on the high seas or in Philippine waters. So, yung mutiny is isa doon sa member ng complement or isa sa mga passenger nagrebelde, no, sa superior officer or sa commanders. So that is mutiny. Take note that this offense, piracy, is also covered by PD number 532, which is the anti-piracy and anti-highway robbery law. We will discuss the provisions of PD number 532 later. Now, PD number 532 defines piracy. So, iba yung kanyang definition ng piracy dito ha. Any attack upon or seizure of any vessel or the taking away of the whole or part thereof or its cargo, equipment, or the personal belongings of its complement or passengers, irrespective of the value thereof, by means of violence against or the intimidation of persons or force upon things committed, take note, by any person, no? Including passenger or member of the complement of said vessel. And take note here, only in Philippine waters. So unlike Article 122, kapag namirata ka sa high seas at saka sa Philippine waters, you can be liable under 122. But here in PD number 532, yung pamimirata dito is only in Philippine waters. So you cannot be held liable under PD number 532 kung high seas yung venue or location ng piracy. And ang kaibahan din ng special law na to is any person na pwedeng mag-commit ng piracy, whether member of the vessel's complement or passenger or not, no? So, medyo generic yung ating piracy here in this particular special law. And also, aside from that, meron ding highway robbery or brigandage na coverage yung PD number 532. Ano naman ito? Ito yung pagnanakaw, no, in any Philippine highway. So, the seizure of any person for ransom, extortion, or other unlawful purposes, or the taking away of the property of another by means of violence against, or intimidation of person or force upon things of other unlawful means committed by any person on any Philippine highway. So, pag-usapan natin ano ang definition ng Philippine waters. So, it shall refer to all bodies of water such as but not limited to seas, gulfs, bays around, between and connecting each of the island of the Philippine archipelago, irrespective of its depth, breadth, length, or dimension, and all waters belonging to the Philippine by historic or legal title, including territorial sea, the seabed, the insular shelves, and other submarine areas over which the Philippines has sovereignty or jurisdiction. So sa madaling salita, when you say Philippine waters, ito yung lahat ng klase ng bodies of water, mapa-dagat, mapa-river, mapa-ilog. So lahat ng bodies of water that are within the Philippine territorial jurisdiction. So yan ang Philippine water. So if nag-commit ka ng piracy in any of these bodies of water, then you will be liable under PD number 532 or under Article 122, no? Kasi kasali din doon yung Philippine waters, okay? Now, vessel naman, kasi na-mention natin yung vessel sa definition. Ano ba ibig sabihin nito? Any vessel or watercraft used for transport of passengers or cargo from one place to another through Philippine waters. It shall include all kinds and types of vessels or boats used in fishing. So, pwede, basta any vessel or watercraft na makatransport siya ng passenger or cargo from one place to another, no, through Philippine waters. So, pwedeng bangka, pwedeng pump boat, so any watercraft na pwede mong magamit. So, yan ang definition ng vessel. So, kapag nag-commit ka ng piracy on these kinds or types of vessels, pwedeng bangka, pwede pump boat, etc., pwede barko, kasi nakaka-transport siya ng passenger, then you will be liable, no, under PD number 532 for piracy. Now, Philippine highway naman, ano naman ang definition nito? It shall refer to any road, street, passage, highway, and bridges or other parts thereof, or railway or railroad. So, kasali ang railway, no? Yung mga dinadaanan ng trains within the Philippines used by persons or vehicles or locomotives or trains for the movement or circulation of persons or transportation of goods, articles, or property, or both. So, klaro tayo, di ba, na street. So, pag sinabing Philippine Highway, hindi lang pala yung malalaking roads, no? Kasali pala yung mga streets, mga passageway, or even bridges, no? Kasali siya sa definition ng Philippine Highway. So, if you commit robbery in these places, then you will be liable under PD number 532 for highway robbery or brigandage. Ayan. So, that is the definition of Philippine Highway. So, let's now go to the problem. At 3 a.m. of June 27, 1993, there were two brothers, E and J, who were fishing in the sea some 3 kilometers away from the shores of Tabogon, Cebu. Suddenly, another boat caught up with them. One of them, later identified as the accused C, boarded the pump boat of E and J and leveled his gun at E. So, ang accused dito is si C. With his gun, C struck E on the left cheekbone and ordered the brothers to dapa. There they hogtied E, forced him to lie down at the bottom of the boat, covered him with a tarpaulin up to his neck, stepped on him, and ordered J to ferry them to the Tabogon. They left behind the other pump boat which the accused had earlier used together with its passengers, one of whom was visibly tied. Noting that they were already far out into the sea, E reminded C that they were now off course, but C told E to keep quiet or he would be killed. Meanwhile, J managed to fix the engine, but as they went farther out into the open sea, the engine stalled again. This time, E was allowed to assist his brother. As they passed the shoreline of Nipa, they saw another boat. C asked whose boat that was, and E and J told him that it was operated by a certain O, and that its engine was new. Upon learning this, C ordered E and J to approach the boat, cautioning them, however, not to move or say anything. So, ilang giduol ang katong nakita nila nga boat. On the pretext that they were buying fish. So, atik-atik sila, no? Nagpapanggap sila na magbili ng isda. C boarded the new pump boat. Once aboard, he ordered the operator O to take them to Mungas, another town of Cebu. When O tried to beg off by saying that he would still pull up his net and harvest his catch, C drew his revolver and said, "Choose between the two or I will kill you." O, obviously terrified, immediately obeyed and U hopped in from the other pump boat and joined C. But as U was transferring to the new pump boat, its outrigger caught the front of the pump boat of E and J, so he kicked hard its prow, and it broke. The jolt threw E into the sea and he landed on the water headlong. So nahulog sila sa dagat. J then untied his brother's legs and the two swam together, clinging to their boat. Fortunately, another pump boat passed by and towed them safely ashore. C contends that the trial court erred in convicting him of piracy. Is C correct? So, meron na siyang conviction, no? Na-convict na siya ng piracy. So, ngayon, kini-question niya kung tama ba yung conviction niya. So, the ruling of the Supreme Court here is that he is not correct. So, his conviction is correct, no? Tama yung trial court sa pag-convict sa kanya. To sustain the defense and convert this case of piracy into one of grave coercion would be to ignore the fact that a fishing vessel cruising in Philippine waters was seized by the accused by means of violence against or intimidation of persons. So if you can still recall, no, the facts of the case, 'di ba? Bigla na lang siyang nag-jump doon sa pump boat ni Ian J, and then meron siyang dalang revolver, 'di ba? And ginamit niya 'yon para takutin si Ian J. As E testified, the accused suddenly approached them and boarded their pump boat, and C aimed his revolver at them as he ordered complaining witnesses E to dapa, or lie down with face downwards, and then struck his face with a revolver, hitting the lower portion of his left eye, after which C told his victims at gunpoint to take them to the Tabogon. While C insists that he and U had no intention of depriving E and J permanently of their boat, proof of which they left behind the brothers with their boat. The truth is, C and U abandoned them only because their pump boat broke down and it was necessary to transfer to another pump boat that would take them back to their lair. So sabi nila na wala kaming intention na kunin yung kanilang boat. In fact, iniwan nga namin sila with their boat. Pero based on facts, hindi yun ang totoong intention ni C. Iniwan niya yung brothers kasi nasira yung pump boat ng brothers. That's why humanap sila ng ibang bangka. So that was the reason. Kaya hindi siya tinanggap ng Supreme Court. So yun ang ruling ng Supreme Court. This is an example of piracy, no, in Philippine waters. So our last topic is Article 123, which is qualified piracy. So itong qualified piracy is same lang talaga yung elements niya with the ordinary piracy under Article 122. Kaya lang, mas magbigat yung kanyang penalty because of some or any of the following circumstances, no, under Article 123. So, number one is whenever they have seized a vessel by boarding or firing upon the same. So, pinaulanan nila ng bala yung vessel. Nag-board sila sa vessel, just like, for example, yung problem na pinakita natin kanina. So, that is already qualified piracy. No? Second, whenever the pirates have abandoned their victims without means of saving themselves. So, kapag iniwan ng offender yung kanilang victims, no? And then wala silang means to survive. So, kinuhan sila ng pagkain, ng damit, ng pera, lahat-lahat. So, even boat, for example, so parang tinapon sila sa dagat. So, wala talaga silang naiwan sa kanila. So, that is parang qualifying circumstance, no, that will qualify piracy to qualified piracy. Then, whenever the pirates have abandoned whenever the crime is accompanied by murder, homicide, physical injuries, or rape. So aside from seizing the vessel or taking control of the vessel and taking the properties of the owner of the vessel, lahat ng nandun, yung mga gamit nila, merong pinatay, no? Nag-commit ng homicide or may binugbog, merong physical injuries or may ni-rape sila. So aside sa piracy, ng rape pa sila, so that will qualify, no, the crime into qualified piracy. So mas mabigat yung penalty, that is reclusion perpetua to death.